Hello, my name is Grady Jonas. I'm from Hartland College, and today's chapel talk is presented by Giancarlo de Miranda on the topic Relationship, Part 3. I hope you'll be blessed.
I did not realize that the computer was here already, so so let's continue with our presentation. So just a quick review to what we've been studying. Paul said that all things should be done how? Decently and in order, okay? And we also saw how important it is to have a family to represent well the mission of God and the character of God, the principles of God, that actually can speak more than all the sermons that have been preached in the world, okay? So, and then we saw that we have two stages before you get into a courtship. What are the two stages again? We have a casual friendship, and then we have regular. Yes, very good. So, and both of them, it's not exclusive. It involves other people. It's open to, more people. It's not gravitating to just, one individual. Okay, so, when the Spirit prophecy says that a young man should not captivate the friendship of a lady without, consulting with her parents, I see more as the type of friendship that you are gravitating. It's becoming a flirt, so. But in the Christian life, and not only Christian life, in life in general, we have these two stages of life. We just rub shoulders with people, we develop friendships, and again, it's open to everyone. But then if the Lord impresses through different circumstances that this is the person that you should pursue a relationship, a courtship, and then it comes the next step, which is the courtship. And I want to say this, in a courtship, I believe, and I think I have biblical grounds for that, although I'm not going to go through the Bible to show that, but I believe that the young man should be the one taking the initiative. And the young ladies should, wait on the Lord in prayer, okay? I know in today's world it doesn't work like that. Some of women are very bold and sometimes even more than men, and they take the initiative. But in the Christian world, it should be, man should be the one that takes the initiative, okay? And of course, you don't take initiative to start a courtship or a date with somebody that you barely know. That's why the two steps are very important. In those two steps, you had opportunity to get acquainted with the person without playing games, because there was no, revealing of feelings. There was no flirting involved. Then, through normal circumstances in life, interacting with several people, you just can, get to know the person in real life. Okay, so then the Lord, impresses your mind, maybe this is the person, and then you go to your next steps. And let's talk about this. I put here 6 to 12 months, but that doesn't include the engagement, okay? So I'm not saying that 6 to 12 months, the ideal situation, then you're married. In some cases it might happen, but I'm trying, as I said again, give you a general picture of what would be the ideal. It says here, physical touch during this stage should be very limited and with the innocence that a young man would show toward his sister or mother. In other words, during the courtship is not the time for people to be enjoying privileges of the marriage life. And I'm not even talking about the sexual relationship, but what comes before, okay, the preliminary, like kissing, and so it's just not appropriate. So a good way for you to, have an idea what would be appropriate is the kind of treatment that you would give to your own sister or your own mother, okay? Now, another one, they may read Adventist Home together, and this will open up for several discussions and try to establish the spirituality in the relationship and what God expects of a family. So it's very important to do that. The individuals involved should define in a clear way the purpose and direction of the relationship. And of course, when we say the purpose, in reality, there should be just one purpose. We get into a courtship with the purpose of eventually marrying. Of course, in that process of courtship, the Lord may reveal that in reality, those impressions was not really from God, okay? Was not really the best way to take. And guess what? The courtship was successful. The courtship is successful if the Lord reveals His will. If it is to pursue the courtship and get engaged in marriage, if the Lord showed that, it was a successful courtship. But if the Lord shows, no, maybe that's not the best person, then guess what? It was successful. Okay, both of them realized before marriage that God has different plans in their lives. So don't see it as a failure if you are in a if you get into a relationship and then both of you decide, or one of you come to the realization it's not God's will. It was still successful. Okay, so let's continue here. In an objective and impartial way, both should observe the other person's character's flaws. Okay, so if you took those two steps first, the friendship in the two levels, you already had an idea, but you continue to observe. I remember Sister Mayer shared an experience in the Principles of Christian Marriage and Family that she wanted to test Hal's character in real life. And I don't think she minds me sharing this because she shared in class and it was recorded, so I wish she was here, but I'll share what she did. So she decided, both of them were traveling somewhere, and then he decided to take a nap, and then asked her to drive, and she accepted, and then she said, I'm going to drive until the fuel runs out. I'll pretend that I didn't see it. I'll drive it until the car stops, and I want to see his reaction. And apparently he handled well because they are married today. So, okay. But anyway, I'm not suggesting that you should tempt it, the other person. But she was trying to get to know him in real life, in real circumstances. So it is necessary that the genuineness of the relationship be tested in real life situations. Okay. Another thing, the relationship with future in-laws should be strengthened. Again, the involvement of the family is very important. Sometimes, due to circumstances, that can be hard because today the world is just like everywhere. People are traveling everywhere, so it can be a challenging many cases. But as far as possible, you have to involve family. And this is a benefit not only for counseling purposes, but also if you really want to have a good idea of the other person, you have to know their family. Okay, you have to know their family. Get into their house and understand the upbringing and the practices and all that. Okay, how the person that you are in a courtship treats their parent, his or her parents. Okay, so that's very important, or siblings. The kind of relationship they have with parents, if they talk to one another, if it is a good relationship or not. So all this is very valuable for you to observe. Okay, let's continue here. It is good to learn each other's convictions and perspectives in life, like life calling. If you have the conviction that you should live in the United States, but the other person has a conviction to do missions in Africa or another continent, so that can be incompatible. And other things of life too, even doctrines, discussions about children, lifestyle, about even things like dress, reform, diet, okay, work, doctrine, philosophy should take place. If you want to have children or not, if you have the expectation of homeschool your children, or that's not really important, all this should be discussed during courtship, and then it can continue during the engagement. So in other words, the courtship is not really the way the world sees, just like to enjoy the privileges of the marriage life. Okay, but serious discussion is happening. Of course, there is time for recreation and spend time together and enjoy that moment. But you need to also consider real things in life. And there are some courses that helps you to get into good discussions. I know Pastor Diego, he put one together. I'm not sure if we have in English, but if we do, I can make it available for you. So it's a good way for a couple to just go into finances and all the details in life that we don't think about talking during the courtship time. But then when you marry, you have to deal with all these issues. And then, all of a sudden you realize that the person doesn't have the same conviction as you and same priorities in life as you, and that can be very disappointing. So this stage shouldn't be too long, the courtship, only long enough to cover the objectives listed above. We're going to talk about the next phase, which is the engagement, as you're going to see. But I would say, like courtship and engagement, it should take like 2 years, okay? Really no more than 3 years. I hate to see a young man holding a young lady for 5, 6, 8 years to come to the conclusion was not really God's will. And then they, so it's a red flag, okay? So if, especially you young ladies, if a young man is just dragging the relationship and is not making real progress, so it should be a red flag, okay? So when the sexual passions are dominated during this stage, the happiness and recompense are always greater during the marriage. Why? There is no guilt involved, okay? And also there is more trust. So if you think about it, if somebody was not able to hold his or her passion or both of them during the courtship and during the engagement, what is the guarantee that you have that that person will hold or control their passion during the marriage relationship? So sexual purity during that phase can build trust during the marriage life. Develop communication and problem-solving skills. That's during the engagement as well. So you begin to solve problems together, even like preparation for the wedding, in case there will be, a ceremony and also a reception, and so all this should be resolved together. Better understand the role of a man and the role of the woman in a relationship. Okay, so the expectations there about cooking, about washing, about all these things, cleaning, about mechanic of the car, and all this should be well worked before marriage. Okay, This is when the logistics of the wedding are planned. Now, here are some questions that you can ask yourself, okay, in regards to marriage. And we're going to go quickly through them. But again, you're going to have access to this PowerPoint. But you should reflect on these things when you believe the time comes. What is his or her attitude toward people from the opposite gender? Okay? And these are things that you observe during the friendship stages. Okay? So that's the advantage, really, to be in an environment like Hartland. Sometimes we see like, oh, we can't have courtship and so forth. But really gives you that opportunity to develop true friendship with a wide variety of people and really get to know people, okay, for 3 years. And then when you come to the courtship, engagement, you have already the answer. You have the answers for most of these questions. What is his or her past in regards to relationships? How does he or she treat his or her mother, father, siblings, etc.? Is this person honest, responsible, temperate, reverent, economical? Does this person practice good hygiene? So, of course, everybody has their own standard, but for your standard, does this person practice good hygiene? You have to take that in consideration. I want to say something about the finances. I'm not sure if you are aware, but finances is actually the highest reason for divorce. Okay. I want to share this experience with you of a friend of mine, and I hate to dwell in the negative side, but allow me. I wish I could have time to tell some other stories, but I want to share this story with you. Was a young man. His upbringing was, he grew up in a farm, and he didn't have much education, and his family was very poor. And then he came to study in one of our schools there in Brazil. He graduated. He was a powerful preacher. He still is a powerful preacher. And then he liked a young lady, and she was very beautiful. Although she was like 7 years older than him, but she was probably more beautiful than him and looked younger than him. Wow. Okay, so he was attracted to her. She had a very strong personality, and I had worked with her in the past, and he asked for my advice, and then I told him that I wouldn't recommend. Okay, and he probably asked advice for more people, but he decided to pursue the relationship. But one of the reasons I didn't recommend was because of the drastic difference of the way they grew up. She grew up in a rich family, and she was a businesswoman. She also studied there in one of our schools, and she had a very strong personality as well, and he had a very strong personality too, so it wasn't a good combination. But both of them, they were in love, and they had strong feelings towards one another, so they decided to pursue the relationship. But to make the long story short, after 2 years, they were divorced. Okay, so and that's unfortunate. And they study in a school similar to Hartland, and as far as philosophy, like convictions, doctrine, and things like that, it was pretty much the same. But they missed details such as this, discussing about finances, discussing about, in their case, was not hygiene, but it's things that you have to take in consideration. Observing the way you treat other people, and counsel as well, very key, okay, to more experienced people. Here are some other questions. Is this person polite, gentle, and lovable? Is this person impulsive, uncontrolled, and prideful? Does he or she possess domestic skills? And this is another important area as well. Okay. In our days, young men and young ladies are growing up without knowing how to run a house. So that can be a frustration as well. And remember, the habits of the family will be reproducing the children as well. So you have to know what kind of family you want to have, your expectations there. Can he, in the case I put he here because it's the primary responsibility of man to support financially the home. Does he or she have depressive tendencies? If yes, how does that affect his or her family relationships, studies, and or work? Okay, so can the person function when a crisis comes? So basically, these are things to observe and try to find out the answers, okay? So I hope this presentation helped you to have an idea of what God expects of future families. It says here, the family tie is the closest, the most tender and sacred of any on earth. It was designed to be a blessing to mankind. And it is a blessing wherever the marriage covenant is entered, how? Into intelligently, in the fear of God, and with the due consideration for its responsibilities. That's my appeal to all of us, that we may really take it serious and use our reason, not only our emotions, our attractions, and consider the ways of God, really place before the Lord. Prayer is the key. You know, if you really pray, say, Lord, please show me your way, even if it is not what I expect, what I desire. Please close the doors if it is not your will. Pray honestly. Okay, pour your heart before the Lord, and He will direct your path, okay? And please consider the responsibilities of marriage. You cannot only consider the privileges. The privileges that we think is having a companion there, you know, the sexual life as well is another privilege of marriage, and maybe be more influent in ministry. So before considering the privileges, consider the responsibilities. You cannot reap the privileges of marriage if you do not fulfill your responsibilities. So may God bless us.